Thank you all for attending. The media is the message. Really appreciate your coming here today, and I think you're going to have a great panel that's going to give you some really interesting information about what is going on in our increasingly multimedia world. We're going to start off with Dr. Adeena Karasick from Fordham University, who's going to be presenting a PechaKucha, which, if you don't know what a PechaKucha is, it's PowerPoint multimedia with video, audio. It's quite an amazing creation, to be perfectly honest. And Adeena is a great expert at putting it together. So I will introduce her, and we will have 3 other speakers talking about some other things further on down the line. Adeena.
Thanks, Bob, for inviting me here today. It's great to see you all. Yes, I've created a PechaKucha. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's a Japanese form that basically takes sort of like an upgraded slideshow, which takes 20 seconds, 20 slides, and each slide is really, you have 20 seconds. So it's quite a feat to be able to do it live. I usually would be presenting this live, but because of technological difficulties today, I will be just presenting it to you as is. Basically, the presentation, which has gone through a number of titles, is now called Back in the OSVR, The Ghost is the Machine. And basically, it's an analytic meditation on the relationship between technology and spirituality in contemporary media. And so, as you will see, it has, there's references to manifestations of the disembodied voice, as in Spike Jonze's Her, which I'm sure you've all seen, or Apple's Siri, rethinking it as a 21st century golem. It highlights how the mystical and the machine are not oppositional, but that all media are extensions of man and cause, as in the words of McLuhan, deep and lasting changes and transform our environment. And basically, opens up a space reminding us how the metaphysical and the physical are not oppositionary, but maybe perhaps it would be more wise to think of it more as a pataphysical space, which reminds us how language, and thereby all knowledge, is spectral and virtual and simulacric. So without further ado, my PechaKucha. Can we turn up the voice? There's no volume. If, according to Derrida, spirit embodies the same and other simultaneously, we must rethink the relationship of the mystical and the machine, not as oppositional, but that technology is aligning the binary between the physical, metaphysical, magical, and the real, reminding us how language, and thereby all knowledge, is spectral, virtual, simulacric. Throughout film history, the ghost has always lived in the machine, whether it's the haunted internet, diabolic computers, the apparitional TV, or the talking telephone. Technology is typified as alien, other, mysterious, and uncontainable, evident in that the inner workings of the machine, the engine, comes from jinn, ingenious to plot, trick, and snare to engineer. As the real reels into the irreal of virtuality of invisible visibility, we're reminded how we're always being with specters, sliding through simulacric axes and noumenal in the phenomenal, where the real is never locatable but processual, multiplicitous, and divergent. And according to Hegel, this weaving of the spirit is the secret of ideological change. As such, the mystical and the machine function not physically or metaphysically, but pataphysically. For both the world and the machine were created not from nothing, but from a blueprint, a series of contrapuntal codes, algorithms, programs, and carries a trace of its coding as a resonant present like contemporary operating systems, impregnated with the voice of its maker. General Motors had a major role in the development of the modern disembodied voice. Through their OnStar service, cars were among the first things to talk to us, manifested through the media in My Mother the Car, Cars, Trucks, Herbie, Killdozer, Knight Rider. For grounding Arthur C. Clarke's famous statement, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. While in the past the disembodied voice may have been a set of mechanical procedures, instructions, or protocols, or from McLuhan the servo mechanism of its own extended or repeated image, no longer is the machine just archiving storage, but increasingly exceeds its own codes, exerting a kind of algorithmic free will, reminding us that as byproducts of coding we are always between determinism and freedom. The disembodied voice can be seen as a vestige of Julian Jaynes' theory of bicameralism, which asserted that early thought was coming from outside itself. As late as 3,000 years ago, belief was these guiding commands were issued by external gods, a supernatural force manifested today as original logos, oracular divining, or ancestral worship.
I am that I am.
Danny's not here, Mrs. Torrance.
Oh man, I got the fucking munchies real bad. How about you?
Alice, wake up! Alice! Alice!
Similarly, according to Ong, thought was understood as a kind of outside coding. Anthropomorphic voice is an exteriorization of an internal state which becomes interiorized, and as thought becomes talk, becomes voice, the still small voice echoes and deflects as a nexus of idiolectic effects and reflects as a resource sorcery of flickering signifiers. Upton Sinclair's Mental Radio points to how the voice's telepathy is related to the telegraph, how in the 1700s spiritualism erupted from the telegraph, telephone, radio, oracular and ancestral, apostrophic and apparitional, voici, voila, viva voce, Google Voice. Media reminds us how voice veils and unveils in vaporous verity. For Benjamin, voice becomes a simulation of erratic effects. For Sixou and Derrida, it hovers as a ghostly trace, echo, spectre, all lexinomadic and electrically charged, highlighting how the machine is always already the voice of the voice, missing screaming in the polyglossic intertextual miasma. With the development of algorithmic personalities, disembodied voices started to become more human. iPhone, Siri referencing Circe, sirens, second sailors into the sea, understands what you say and knows what you mean. Whether Siri, Cleverbot, Pandora, or Xbox One, contemporary AI reminds us how the medium is the message massaging your songs on your sensorium. I go.
The tart. Blue box.
Yes, that's me.
She's a woman. She's a woman. And she's the tart.
The woman that I've been seeing, Samantha, she's an operating system, not just a computer.
Say, kiss me. Kiss me.
Increasingly personalized, this technology is taking McLuhan's extensions of man to a radical place, not just as a personalization of our media, but as an intensification, amplification, causing deep and lasting changes, transforming our environment. An intergrammatic doppelganger of perma-scroll shelf selfies, narcissus, reminisces. This hyper-personalization of the other reminds us how the self and other are an infinite mirroring of effects constructed in relation to the other, uncannily similar to the ancient Kabbalistic practice of creating a golem. Through a series of codes, combinations, and lexical distributions, early rabbis created a companion in their own image. Like the OS of Spike Jonze' Her, formed in the image of its makers, golems were not just an example of mastering the code, but were created to serve their creator. Whether simple tasks like drawing water, protecting villages, helping to raise the dead, or serving as a valet, from as early as the 2nd century, the holy golem protected and assisted. According to the makers of Siri, we were trying to build the world's first true virtual personal assistant, and as a bodiless body, it urges us to re-see the body not as increasingly unnecessary, but as in Haraway's Cyborg Manifesto, how the machine is an aspect of our embodiment, and evokes a kinetic body that both generates and obscures signification. Similarly for Drucker, the visual form of the letter on the screen is fully material, even though the letter exists as a stored sequence of binary digits with no tactile material appearance to it, or Deleuze and Guattari's body without organs.